bit late, had some technical issues. If you are watching live, if you're not, you won't give a shit really. Let's fly straight into this. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has to sell Paul Pogba. There's two really interesting theories on this. We'll also be talking about a little bit of a development around Bruno Fernandes and why the deal and the lack of bids are probably happening, as well as, what was the other one? Saul Niguez, we'll be talking about him. But let's fly straight into this. Remember Paul Pogba and his recent comments about wanting a new challenge, followed up by Mino Raiola. Will he be on the plane tomorrow? I mean, it's going to be very interesting. I think surely he has to be on the plane. But how United deal with this, I don't know. The latest coming out of Manchester United is pretty much what's been said for quite a while now, and it's interesting. I saw Brian McClare tweeting about it today, ex-United forward, very, very good player he was, and he said it doesn't really matter what Paul Pogba wants, it's what United fans and United want. Well, I think most United fans don't want Pogba here anymore, to be honest with you. But I think with regards to what Manchester United want, I think we all know that United are doing one of two things. They're either saying they don't want to sell him when they do to get a good deal, or what I think we all know really is that United do not want to sell Paul Pogba. I think what's happened with the board, and you can say, and when you say the board, I mean it's just easier to say Ed Woodward, isn't it? Because he is the CEO, so he's the face of the board, so that's easy to say that. And then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the manager. And I think what's happening here is that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, right? First of all, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants to build a team around Paul Pogba. He wants to bring players in around Paul Pogba, and he wants to build his team around Paul Pogba. Why he shouldn't do that, because some people would say, well, what's wrong with that? Why he shouldn't do that is because Paul Pogba doesn't want to be here. Paul Pogba is not a player to build a team around, because when the going gets tough, which it will do next season, there will be games next season that we don't win. There will be results next season that we as fans are not happy with and we react to, because that's football. You know, we can all pretend we're patient and we don't care, but the reality is, any football team, whether you're Liverpool, Man City fighting for a title, Arsenal, Chelsea, Southampton, whoever, there are points in a season where you get fed up with the players, you get fed up with the coach, and that's just football. And when that happens with Solskjaer, if he's building a team around Paul Pogba and the going gets tough, in Pogba's head he'll be, I never really wanted to be here anyway. I'm going in the summer. That is massively dangerous for a new project for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. His career is basically on the line with this Pogba decision, because I understand why he wants to build a team around Paul Pogba, and that was his plan going into the summer, because Pogba got all the goals, got all the assists, and he is the best player in the team. And he wants to build a team around him. And, you know, maybe he did want to bring Longstaff and Fernandes and Maguire and Wan-Bissaka, and that was how he envisaged building a team with Paul Pogba. But he cannot do that anymore. You cannot build a team around Paul Pogba now by forcing him to stay, because his heart's not in it. Whether you give him £500,000 to stay, he's only doing it for the money, his heart's not in it. Or whether you force him to stay for another year, his heart's not in it. He wants to go this summer. And if you keep a player, no matter how much you coach him to stay and say, please play, Steve, please stay, that's all right in the summer when you're in Australia and everybody's happy and you're having a Foster's and a Barbie. Yeah, it's great. But when you get into the season and you've just been annihilated by bloody, I don't know, Liverpool at Anfield, and you know you're building a team around him, and Solskjaer's in the dressing room and he looks to the man he's building his team around and he's like, yeah, I've done this to Mourinho, I'm not that interested. Who's going out the door? You know, and that's why Solskjaer really needs to, you know, very quickly, I suppose, realise that this, as much as he wanted that plan, you can't build a player around, but you can't build a team around a player that doesn't want to be here. It's ridiculously naive. And I really hope he figures that out really, really quickly. The second thing, an unhappy player causes an unhappy camp. Ollie will have his work cut out if he does stay, Marks, as Philip Burton would. I think that's absolutely spot on as well. And welcome to Songbird X, the latest member of the United Stand Members Club. Poggy wants to cheat on Manchester United for ages. Is it just that Ollie refused to accept the truth? Says Leslie Light. Yeah, you know what? Ollie could be the jilted wife who just will not see that they're being cheated on, and he wants to go and wants to keep giving him another chance. I just... My focus is Manchester United, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is our manager. So my loyalty is to Manchester United and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And I look at this situation and I think, how do we keep Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in this job for as long as possible and give him the best chance? And I think the best chance he's got is to surround himself with players who want to be here. And Paul Pogba doesn't want to be here. And also Paul Pogba, like Philip says, is very influential in that team. And if you've got a player like that who doesn't want to be here, you've got to remove him out. The second thing I want to say about Ed Woodward's role in this is, like, even if Solskjaer wants to get rid of Pogba, let's remember that doesn't mean he's going anywhere. We've heard rumours about Martial, managers wanting to get rid of him, and Woodward's overruled it because his commercial value. Well, what if Solskjaer does want to get rid of Pogba and Ed Woodward says, no. This is a man who makes us millions and millions in brand exposure. You know, he's the social media king. We are not going to let him go. I'm going to chuck loads of money at him to keep him here. I don't care what you think about the dressing room. He's too valuable to us off the pitch. And Woodward keeps him. And that is dangerous as well, because if you look at the history of Woodward, you know, Mourinho or Pogba, who went? Mourinho. I think that was the right decision, but I still think Woodward would have chosen Pogba over Mourinho. So you've got to be very, very careful in that state as well, that we live in this world now where, well, look, Pogba's been given an extra week off to go and do stuff with Adidas. I mean, look, maybe other clubs do that, but I find that ridiculous. Every other Manchester United player is back at Manchester United training, apart from Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who was playing in the late June for the under-21s, and Paul Pogba, who's been given a week, and he was still posting on Instagram today that he's in America. So what's he going to do? Fly straight from America to Australia? I don't really understand what's happening with that, but definitely needs to be removed. Remember, it's Saturday night, so I do want to get into the comments. There is a bit of a debate to be had here, and then we'll talk about some other stuff. Mark Whitten says, Pogba leaving United is like a relationship that just isn't working. Paul, it's not you, it's me. I'm not able to commit to you, Paul. I think you should leave. Thank you for the last 3 years. I think you're spot on with that. Have you seen the reports that Inter are wanting to get rid of Icardi and Nainggolan? Yes, definitely have. Let's get new players and build this team with players who want to play for the badge, says Curdle Walters. And, well, look, you know, there's two questions I want to answer during the show tonight. One of them was, what do you think's been the best transfer window since Sir Alex Ferguson left? And two is all about, will Pogba be on the plane tomorrow to Australia? I think that he will be. Because if he isn't, that is totally and utterly disrespectful to the club. Having said that, I think there's a debate to be had, and I don't really want to do it tonight, but there is a debate to be had with these fans who seem to support a player over a club. And there is Pogba FC out there, of course there is. But I feel that this Paul Pogba coming home to Manchester United, I never really bought into that. I've never felt, I mean, with Marcus Rashford and Jesse Lingard, you can, and even Ander Herrera, who wasn't from the youth setup, and Juan Mata and David De Gea to a certain extent, you feel there's a love for Manchester United Football Club. You feel that they get what the club's all about. I've never really felt with Paul Pogba, even when he was here as a youth player, he's got that aloofness about him, and maybe that's part of his brilliance. But I never felt that Paul Pogba was in love with Manchester United Football Club or entwined with the fans or anything like that. So I'm not surprised by this, but you know what? I think there already has been some disrespectfulness because it didn't need to go public, did it? Right, let's have a look at this super chat here from Daniel Matata. He says, how about this? De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire, Shaw, Pogba, Fernandes, Maddison, Sancho, Rashford, Martial. If not, who else? Well, you put Pogba in the team straight away. I just don't think we can. I don't want to see Paul Pogba in a Manchester United shirt now. And that's really because of what Mino Raiola said yesterday. I think it's gone too far now. I don't think there is any coming back. According to Get French Football News, Pogba's seriously considering not going to Australia, says Tony Bain. You know, if he does do that, well, I suppose, has he lost my respect, Paul Pogba? Has he lost your respect? No. I think he's handled it the wrong way. I think not getting on the plane takes it down into snake territory. Horrible, mercenary, disrespectful club territory. I don't want him to do that. I sympathise with his situation to a certain extent. I mean, at the end of the day, we can't be hypocrites and say, oh, you know, Jones, Young and all that lot of crap, and then expect a player like Paul Pogba to say, kiss, kiss, I want to stay here and play with all that shit. At the end of the day, Pogba wanting to leave with 3 years left on his contract is a statement of the last 6 years not being good enough. And you know, he's got one career, one life, one career, and he's been here for 3 years, and I think he can see that the next 3 years are going to be like the last 3 years. And those 3 years for him could be at Real Madrid, having an easier life with world-class players, a world-class manager, going deep into the Champions League, winning titles. You can't have an issue with Paul Pogba wanting to do that. It's just how you do that, how you manoeuvre that. Do you need to release public statements out there through your agent and yourself, or do you just step into the boardroom at Manchester United and say, look, I hate it here. I hate what you're doing. I don't believe in your plan. I want to go. I'm going to go. Maybe that's already happened, you know, to be fair. Maybe all that already has happened, but we have to assume it hasn't because he's been on holiday for the last few weeks. He's not been at Manchester United. So I think if he doesn't get on the plane, he will go into the sort of area of people like Di Maria and Tevez, where United fans will just despise him, because that's whether Pogba's right or not to push the move. When you wipe your feet on the Manchester United name by disrespecting it, like not going on a tour, that's too big a step. So I think he'll be on the plane. I don't think he will do that, because ultimately I don't think Paul Pogba's a bad person. Apparently United are after Suarez. Any news about this? Says Conor O'Regan. They better bloody not be. I'll give up. I'll give up if that's going to happen. He's only got one life. Damn, when you deep, it's that crazy, says username. You know what? I know that is quite a crazy thing to say, but you do only get one football career. He's 26. If he stays at United for another 2 years, he's 28. And, I know he can still go in somewhere else, but maybe he wants his prime years at somewhere else. And I always felt he was only going to be here for 3 years, to be honest with you. Every told us he is leaving indirectly, says Matteo S. He's been very disrespectful taking this public. He should have handed in a transfer request to the club directly. Going public makes him a snake, says Druv Shoala. I don't think he's at that state yet, and maybe he has handed a transfer request in, but if he doesn't get on the plane, that's insubordinate, isn't it? That's directly sort of snubbing the club, and it embarrasses the club. So I don't want him to do that. Graceful exit like Hazard, says Shamir Evelyn, would be nice. But you know what? If Manchester United haven't figured this out, that we need to move on, and we need to and Paul Robinson, who's one of the moderators, says I can't blame him, to be fair. And to be honest with you, I do agree with Paul on that. I think ultimately we had this chat in May, and I said I don't hate Pogba. I know some people hate him. I don't love Pogba. I know some people love him. I like him as a footballer. I don't think he's fulfilled his talent here, and I likened it to a marriage whereby amicably sit down and go, this isn't working out for either of us, because it's not working out for United either. United aren't getting the best out of Pogba. Pogba's not getting the best out of United. So it doesn't work. And an amicable separation with the right money coming to us from Pogba and Pogba going off was the right thing to do. What's happening here is it's becoming a bitter divorce, and you see this, a bitter divorce where it becomes into a mudslanging match, and I don't want you to go, well I want to go, and that's what we don't need. We need some professionalism here. And I think United, as I said last night, they need to wake up to the fact that Pogba's got to go. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer needs to wake up to the fact that if he keeps Pogba, he will lose his job probably, because you cannot keep a player that does not want to be here, because the media love a story about Manchester United. We had it right at the start of last season. Pogba wants to go, Mourinho, right at the start of the season. And whatever you think about Mourinho, and I think he was right, he was sacked. And, I always think about some of the bad things he does, the West Ham game and stuff like that. But right at the start of the season, he had the press against him with stirring the pot with Paul Pogba. And that will happen next season for Ollie. And he doesn't need that shit. He really, really doesn't. And there actually is a solution out there for Manchester United. Of course there is. I'm going to talk about Bruno Fernandes in a moment. But Praveen Thomas says if Pogba goes, Manchester United will need to replace him with a big name signing as per Adidas. What are the options? Griezmann, Neymar, Salah. Well, Griezmann's going to go to Barcelona. Neymar's probably going to go to Barcelona. And Salah, I don't even know where you're going with that. Mike Hawks Mole says, if what you're saying is correct about United not budging on selling because of marketing money and all that, Pogba may have been forced to go public. Yes, you might be right with that. Robert Moore, Pogba has to go, or that negativity will spread through the dressing room and ruin our season. And I suppose what Robert's saying there as well is, look, let's just quickly do this, because this is Saturday night. So on Saturday night, we're a little bit more fluent in the way we do the show, and I like to interact with the comments a little bit more than is possible sometimes in the week. Would you want Paul Pogba to be going on the tour tomorrow? Considering this is meant to be a new leaf, you've got people like Daniel James, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, it's their first impression of the club, it's meant to be a happy time, and you take Paul Pogba on tour, who doesn't want to be there, and he could be, obviously he's not going to be there just training on his own, he's going to be interacting with players. Is that going to spread negativity? I'm sure United want him on that plane because United want him to stay. But actually, is it a good idea that he even goes? Part of me thinks actually, if he doesn't go, it might not be a bad thing. Matt Rush says, Pogba needs to leave. We must see this as a positive. Get players who want to wear the badge. Here we have a bid for 65 million for Milinkovic-Savic today. Yeah, I've done a video on that already, mate. If you want to watch that, it's already on the channel about Milinkovic-Savic. And Olray says, yeah, let Pogba go. He deserves to be with the best. United are a few years away from being good again. Cash in, spend well, be realistic, but it is still sad. Yeah, look, the comments in there And you are far more Manchester United passionate than some of the people on our board, and you are making decisions that losing Pogba weakens us and it's a gamble, but it's right for our football club that we love. So if you can be saying that as Manchester United fans who, you're not paid by the club, you invest your hours and time and passion into Manchester United. You want what is the best for Manchester United. And, Paul Pogba leaving is an uncertainty. But most people are saying, let him go. It's best for the club that I love to rebuild and work without him. So if you're doing that, why aren't the bean counters who don't even support our club but run our club, why aren't they doing that? And you know what? There's a very easy way around this as well. Manchester United, if Paul Pogba was going to stay, United still wanted to sign 2 midfielders. And let's say those 2 midfielders are Bruno Fernandes, Sean Longstaff, and Paul Pogba was going to stay. That's what was going to happen, right? So Paul Pogba goes, you still get Bruno Fernandes and Sean Longstaff, but you've got 130, 150 million pounds, hopefully. That's what we would get for Paul Pogba. What do you do? What do you do with that money? Well, look, 50 million of it doesn't go to the Glazers. Forget that. Paul Pogba was a player that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted to build his team around next season. He hasn't got that player anymore because that player wants to go. That money from that player exclusively should go to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to replace Paul Pogba. And there is a player out there called Saul Niguez who's got a £130 million release clause. You just go and spend the 130 that you got on Pogba on Saul Niguez. And some people would say, well, Saul Niguez isn't Paul Pogba. But does he have to be Paul Pogba? If you get somebody who can consistently put in 7 or 8 out of 10 performances every game, you've got a better player than Paul Pogba. Of course, on his day, Paul Pogba is probably one of the best midfielders in the country, in the world. But we know over the last 3 years, we've only had him do that not even 50% of the time. So I think that with regards to that, if I was Manchester United, I would sell Paul Pogba and that money would go on Saul Niguez. And for anybody who says Atletico Madrid won't sell Saul Niguez, they ain't got no choice. As long as he wants to come to Manchester United and you pay the release clause, you get him. And this is the thing that Manchester United need to do, because I said today, like somebody said, what would your ideal replacement be for Paul Pogba, for the midfield? And if Paul Pogba goes, personally, Bruno Fernandes, Thomas Partey, Saul Niguez. Now, I know 2 players come from Atletico Madrid, and somebody said, well, they won't sell you those 2 players. They can't stop us. They can't stop us. If those 2 players want to come to United, they can't stop us as long as we pay what's needed. £43 million release clause for Thomas Partey, 130 for Saul Niguez. 130 is very expensive for Saul Niguez, but you know what? Is it? Is it that expensive? Because we've seen Coutinho go for that a couple of years ago. We've seen Ousmane Dembele go for that. He's a very, very good midfielder, and he's the sort of midfielder that has that professional consistency that would be very good for United. So the Pogba money must be spent on a Pogba replacement. And you know what? Maybe you don't get Saul Niguez. Maybe you go and give Spurs 80 million for Eriksen if he wants to come. But you've spent that money on the player that is going to replace Paul Pogba, and they don't have to be like for like. Right, welcome to Stephen Statham, the latest member of the United Stand Members Club. Similar with Liverpool, Suarez better to let him go, says Wayno LSFL. And they did the same thing with Coutinho, so you're right. What about Eriksen, says Jonas Headguard. Well, actually, there's some breaking news about that. I mean, we aren't the Spurs stand, we're the United stand. But I did read something just before I went live from a journalist who's quite close to Spurs, saying that Spurs are going to offer Eriksen and Alderweireld new contracts. Now, Eriksen's got 1 year left on his contract. Alderweireld has got that 25 million release clause, which is active now. They are confident that both those players will sign a new contract. So, there you go. There's your answer about why we're not in for those players. Any chance United will take on the Griezmann drama, says Rusty Shackelford. The only way I think Griezmann would come to Manchester United is if we somehow keep Paul Pogba. And maybe, in a far-fetched universe, United could say to Pogba, what can we do to make you stay? And Pogba could say, buy 2 or 3 world-class players and United go and do it. But I don't think the Glazers want to do that. Personally, I think the Glazers want a team that's going to finish 4th every year, and they'll be happy with that because the money will roll in. I don't think the Glazers want to go and spend 400, 500 million pounds to make us Premier League champions. I think we are a bit like Arsenal that with our owners. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and his staff around him and the players, they all want to get United back, just like the fans do. But I don't think the owners do. I think the owners are happy as long as we're in the top 4 every year. Right, I've had a super chat here from our young players need to stop looking up to NBA and NFL players who are all about getting paid. No more end of season holidays to the States, says Olray. Interesting. Chong will be a threat if he gets a chance, says Orn Killy. Stay away from Griezmann, says Manik. Drew, I wouldn't want I don't want Griezmann, to be honest with you. What about De Ligt or Griezmann, says Timster Plays. As I said this afternoon, De Ligt will not come to Manchester United, but the only that could have been done if we'd done a deal with Raiola and said, we'll let Pogba go if you sort out De Ligt for us. That was the only way we could have done it. Pogba to Chelsea for Barkley, please, says Ryan McKenna. Yeah, but you've got a transfer ban, so that's not going to happen. And Darshan says that Pogba will influence David De Gea to leave. What about Doucouré as a replacement? I mean, we've never been linked to Doucouré, Darshan, so, you know, I don't know about that. I mean, let me just talk about Bruno Fernandes. So Bruno Fernandes, look, United, I mean, it's been a funny old day. People have been tracking planes and private jets. That apparently was the private jet that Wan-Bissaka flew on, went over to Portugal and then came back to Manchester. So people were getting excited that Bruno Fernandes was going to be on the plane. And I was just like, if he's on that plane, we'd already know about it, because, you know, whether it's Manchester Evening News, Sky Sports, they've got contacts all over the place. They would find out whether that was going to happen. It doesn't mean we're not going to sign Bruno Fernandes. I was reading something today about Bruno Fernandes from the Portuguese. I think it was Ebola. And they were saying that Sporting Lisbon wants 70 million euros, which I think is just over 60 million pounds, which is about right. But the clubs that are interested in Bruno Fernandes, of which Manchester United are one, don't want to pay any more than 55 million euro, which is about 50 million pounds. The problem with this is, and the reason there's been no bids made for Bruno Fernandes so far, and there's a lot of negotiating going on with his agent, is because of this ridiculous thing that Sporting Lisbon clause that they have with Bruno Fernandes, where if somebody offers over 35 million euro and they reject it, they've got to give him 5 million. So it's a precarious situation, because that, in Manchester United mind, means that, look, Sporting Lisbon ain't going to get 70 million because they're going to have to pay 5 million to Bruno Fernandes if they reject a bid. However, on Manchester, it's how low you go, because if United offer 40 million for him, Sporting Lisbon will say, well, it's worth paying the 5 million because we ain't losing him for that. So if you know what I mean, United have got to figure out what is low enough to satisfy Sporting Lisbon, but is not as high as they want. So, you know, it's and also if you get that bid wrong and Sporting Lisbon reject it and pay 5 million to Bruno Fernandes, they've paid the 5 million then, which means, well, they don't care about that 5 million anymore, and they're going to want to recruit it in a higher price. So it's a tough negotiator for Manchester United, if I'm honest with you. Sanchez has just gone off injured. Typical, says Alex Marman. Is that in the third place game, Alexis Sanchez, then? Because I didn't realise about that. Mark, could you please read my previous super chat? It cost me a tenner, says Mark Witten. I thought I had, Mark, but I will go back and check it for you. GA Cool G says, if Atletico Madrid decline a £100 million bid, they need to pay 40 million to a part owner of Niguez. Have you heard that? Very interesting. See, that is very interesting from GA Cool G, because I read about a part ownership of Saul Niguez, but I didn't read anything that deep. So again, if he's available for £100 million effectively, again, why would you not do it? Mike Hawks Mall says, why would Saul or anyone want to come to United and play Europa when Atletico look far more likely to succeed? Sees the obvious lack of ambition and mess United are in and looks the other way. Well, you know, look, Mike, that is always going to be a valid point, isn't it? It always will be a valid point with Manchester United, because we are, you know, it is something that we need to look at. I mean, I'm constantly being reminded of by our rivals that, you know, what a joke we are and what a mess we are, and yeah, you know. But look, I still, but well, I don't need to say it. Let's quote our own manager. You'd be surprised at the quality of player that wants to come to our club. Well, who are these quality of players? Because it clearly wasn't Adrien Rabiot. He chose Juventus. It wasn't Ndembele. He went to Spurs. So who are these quality players that wants to come to Manchester United? And maybe it is Bruno Fernandes and maybe it's Harry Maguire. And, you know, in fairness, that is a quality of player. But we need to see it evidenced. We do need to see it evidenced. And, yeah, I just suppose, look, we'll see what happens with Manchester United. Of course we will. I do want to answer this question as well about where somebody said to me, like, how do you compare this transfer window to any of the last 6, you know, since Sir Alex has retired? And I don't think it's as bad as last season, because I really felt that Fred and Delot and Tony Grant, or whatever his name is, was massively underwhelming compared to what I thought was going to happen last summer. And we know that Mourinho found it massively underwhelming as well. It was a terrible window for what we were meant to do. However, we've got Wan-Bissaka and we've got Daniel James, and I think already that's better than Fred and Delo. I'm sorry, but marginal, but I do. But it's far from being the best summer we've had since Sir Alex retired. I mean, I remember, was it 4 years ago, the summer that Van Gaal got Schneiderlin and Schweinsteiger, and I think they were announced around now. Was it the 5th or 6th of July? That was an amazing, exciting summer. And that was a summer where we were in the Europa League as well, wasn't it? So I think that summer was better. I'm trying to think of others. Mourinho's first summer was definitely better when we got Pogba. So this summer was meant. What I'm trying to say is this summer was meant to be the biggest summer of United since Sir Alex Ferguson retired, because we need it, because of where we are. We're at our lowest point, so we needed a big summer. And it's not even the first or second out of the last 6. It's not. At the moment, it's probably our third or fourth best summer since Sir Alex retired. I mean, the Moyes one was a joke, wasn't it? The only player we bought in was Fellaini. I mean, that was a joke. But, so it's not the worst, but it's certainly not in the top 2. It can be. We're going to have to go and do stuff on the tour that we don't normally do. We don't normally sign players on the tour. I think we're going to have to break that, and I think we will break that. But at the moment, I think people are right to compare it to previous summers, and it's not been that good at all. Danny Noon says, let Pogba go for the price we paid for him. He hasn't earned an increase in value. But Danny, he has. Inflation puts his price up. You don't. If we sold him for 89 million, that's a depreciation. That's a devalue. Inflation pushes his price up from 90 million. If Atletico Madrid, we've read that. Sanchez has gone off injured. Ray, any chance United will take on the Griezmann? No. Mark Whitten says, didn't Pogba kiss the badge in the new kit reveal video? I think it's his agent. He has his handshakes and stuff with all the players and gets on with many people in the club. Fergie hated his agent. I mean, look, Paul Pogba I don't think is a bad lad, and I think he will be on that plane tomorrow, and I think he will conduct himself in a very respectful way of this club. That's why I'd be really disappointed if he didn't get on the plane tomorrow, because I don't think he's that person, and I think he is driven by his agent. But remember when the night before the Manchester derby, where Manchester City were going to beat us at the Etihad and win the league, and we were 2-0 down at half time, and we won in the second half, and Pogba was magnificent. The night before the derby, it all came out that Pep Guardiola had been offered Paul Pogba. Neither his agent or Paul Pogba ever came out and denied that. All that happened is Pogba at the end of the game went, shh. Well, that's not a denial. So there's been issues with Pogba for a long time. That was 18 months ago. So there's been issues with Pogba for a while, but he's always conducted himself quite well. Thanks for the contribution from Duggan. Can you recap, please? Says Mr. Silas 209. Robert Moore, says that Pogba has got to go. That negativity will spread through the dressing room and ruin our season. True, Daniel James setting levels in training, says T. Ballard. He looks very happy to be there, and that's very good for us. Do you feel this Pogba saga could affect signings, says Ari Gudalia? I mean, look, it could do, but it could also be a positive thing for somebody to come in and think, I want to be that player. Which player will improve more this season, says Jose Gonzalez? I think Luke Shaw will continue to develop. I think Lindelof will develop. I think McTominay might do. I'm not the biggest fan of McTominay because I'm not sure about him, but I think that he might actually continue to surprise us, and I hope he does. Wayne LSFL, similar with Liverpool. We did that. Okay, let's come back to the live comments. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. Bottom right hand corner, you'll see we are very, very, very close to 490,000 subscribers. 490,000 subscribers, and then we're on the homeward straight to 500k, which is going to be massive for the channel. For everybody who's applied for tickets for the United Stand get-together on August the 8th, you haven't had emails, or you have had emails. The tickets haven't gone out yet. We'll be sending out details of how you get your ticket on Monday. It's going to be something where when you've got your ticket, it's personally for there on your phone as a barcode. So on Monday, we'll be announcing about that. Right. So a couple more super chats here. Why aren't United up to Lukaku-Icardi swap? Pogba was never home in United. Madrid was always in his head. Let him go. Bring in Bruno Fernandes and Didi and Isco, Eriksen. 3 good midfielders, a good centre-back and a right winger. I don't think we're going to get all that done, mate. I think we're running out of time, to be honest. I don't think we can do loads of deals anymore. And Anoop Aliapan says, Griezmann and Barca insulted Atletico and Atletico president openly criticise Griezmann and Barcelona. That's how a big club reacts. Here we are trying to keep Pogba and doesn't have balls to react to Raiola, and Griezmann was more important for Atletico than Pogba. I'm going to come back to that because I like that comment. And Declan McCarthy says, if only United was ran the way Salford City was. Look at Salford from rock bottom to League 2. Price freezes for the fans, Glazers out. And Matt Rush says, Fernandes, Maguire is a must now. Shameful, still no director of football. This was Pogba's plan all along. 3 years and gone. Great show, Mark. I agree with you, Matt. I think he was always 3 years and gone, to be honest with you. Mike Hawks Mall says, thoughts on Solskjaer, saying there will be 1 or 2 more signings. I'm hopeful that what he means by that is just a 1 or 2, meaning like it could be 3 or 4. It's just a figure of speech, because if it is only 1, we're in big trouble. And I think even 2 isn't enough. But I did say we would make at least 4 signings, so I think we will. And I think we will get Harry Maguire and Bruno Fernandes still, but I also think we'll probably get Sean Longstaff as well. In regards to when puberty hits Longard, we might finally be a man, says Kalachi Gaming. I just want to go back to that comment by Ayapan. Yeah, you know what? Look, Atletico Madrid have come out and been quite critical of Griezmann and Barcelona, and then Inter Milan today have said that Nainggolan and Icardi are not part of their plans. 2 very big clubs doing 2 very different things. 1, Inter Milan saying that 2 players are not part of their plans and they're not afraid to do it. 2, Atletico Madrid, another big club, saying, look, the way Griezmann and Barcelona have acted is not acceptable. Manchester United, you're right. Why? We are a big club. Why don't we act like a big club? With this Raiola thing, why doesn't somebody come out and say the way that Riola's reacted is a disgrace? Why don't somebody come out and say Lukaku's not part of our plans? Like, somebody might say, well, look, that drops his value. But does it? Does it really? Like, you know, why have Inter done it? They're not scared to do it. I think some strong, assertive leadership is what's required at Manchester United, and we've needed that for a long time. And the director of football is the key to that. Of course it is. Please do smash a like on the video, everyone. Let's see if we can get 1,000 likes while we are live. From Paul Pogba's view, why should a player of his level stick around? Playing a Baron Rashi as your main striker makes it clear the club has low ambitions. That's from Camilio 10. I don't disagree with that. I think everybody's going to be defensive of the club because that's right. It's right that we defend the club over Paul Pogba when he publicly says he wants to leave. Of course it is. But if you put yourself in his shoes, you can understand why he wants to go, definitely. Yeah. And that's why Manchester United need to play their part in this and just agree that it's time to part ways. And that's, you know, I really, really do agree with that. I really, really do. And I hope that Manchester United do move from that. Because going back to what I said at the start, there's no way it's a good idea to go in next season for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as an inexperienced manager and try and, you know, work with a key player who doesn't want to be here. It really would undermine what he's trying to achieve. I'm just going to read this email from Parminder Dillon, who did a super chat last week, and he said he had a problem with it. So he emailed me and said, could you read it out? And he said, basically, my anguish towards Manchester United has been building since we lost the Champions League final to Barcelona the year after we won it. I don't really have a question, just more a feeling I wanted to share with you. How can we expect anything but failure from a club that has been showing a steady decline over the past decade? I'm not being negative. City and Liverpool are the true kings of English football at the moment, and all I can do is watch my United cower and crumble under the constant pressure of the greatness they followed. Hopefully the youth will drag the Devils from the depths of the hell and once again crush our rivals. And, you know, that's just from a United fan who, you know, I think it's a very intelligent comment to say that we've been on a gradual decline over the last 10 years. Sir Alex Ferguson won us a title, and he did very well to do that because that was a decent Man City side. But the year before, we didn't win it, and we have been on a steady decline since 2008, and we're dropping further and further. So it's a very, very good comment, of which there is no United fan can come back to that. We can't come back to that. Of course we can't, because we don't know what's going to happen. Thanks for the contribution, Christian Dale, but we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen, and it is very, very sad. And that's why the people within the football club need to be doing a hell of a lot more. But, as I said, and I'll be proved wrong on this, hopefully, but maybe I won't, I feel that the fans, the manager and the players want to get Manchester United back to the days of being great again. But I think that I don't agree with people who say football goes in cycles and United are just going through a bad patch. I don't agree with that. I think cycles are... It's nothing to do with, like, autumn, winter, spring and all that shit. Cycles are dictated to by bad decisions. Manchester United don't need to be in a cycle of, oh, it's Liverpool and Man City's turn. The only reason it's Liverpool and Man City's turn is because we're failing. and we're failing because of the general ownership of the football club and the attitude they have to this football club. You know, when you've got the greatest manager there's ever been in Sir Alex Ferguson, and he's having to say most summers there's no value in the market because he's basically protecting the fact that he's not getting the money from the owners, but he could win the title with bloody Cleverley and O'Shea in the midfield. You know, he could do miracles. When you remove that and mere mortals come in and take the job, they can't do that. They can't do it. And I think what we've got with this board, and it's not reflected from the fans, and I don't think it's reflected from the players or the manager at the moment. They wanted to get us back on top. But I think the board, much like Arsenal for 10 years under Wenger, they're happy if we finish fourth. As long as we get Champions League and the money keeps rolling in, which it does if you get top four, and you keep selling the season tickets, because it will do if you get top four, that's all they're bothered about. They don't want it. You know, a Premier League title, a Premier League trophy means the world to us, but monetary value to the owners, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a trophy. They don't think, like, to win that trophy, they have to put 300 million more into whatever they're doing now. That's not, for a business person, 300 million pounds more just to get a silver thing. Nah, keep that in our pocket. Keep that earning interest for us. And that's what I think United are now. And I love to get proved wrong, but this ownership, and this is why the wider Glazer out thing, I just can't, I just don't, I think it's hit a crescendo this summer because people are unhappy with what's going on the pitch. People are unhappy with transfers. But I think that's very small-minded, because I think even if we do spend the money that we spend will not be quite enough to make us win titles. I think that's always going to happen. I think if we get top four next year, we won't spend much money next summer, because every summer we've got in the Champions League, we don't spend anywhere near as much as we do when we're in the Europa League. You look at what United have spent when we're in the Europa League. It's always a hell of a lot more. Mourinho's first season, we were in the Europa League, we spent loads. Van Gaal's first season when we were in the Europa League, we spent loads. The seasons we weren't in the Europa League, we didn't spend as much. And that, to me, betrays the problem with the ownership of United. They just want us in the top four. Because when we're in the top four, the more money's rolling in. And you just maintain that. There isn't that ambition to go to first. And I hope I'm proved wrong, but I don't think that there is. SRV says, we Indians watch most matches at midnight, sacrifice sleep and go work hard every day to earn and support the club. The club has no respect towards us. Pogba is flying back apparently, says Saul of Torzas, because people are following his flight on Radar 24. Well, yeah, there you go. He is coming back, which is great. Ultra67 says, good show, Mark. Respect to all the mods and rockers. We must keep the faith. MUFC forever. Look, I don't think this transfer window is going to be a failure, by the way. I really don't think it's going to be a failure. I think we will do business, but I think it's maybe not going to be the one as much as we wanted. I.e., I don't think we'll get two midfielders, a right winger and a centre-back on top of what we've got. Did you hear United dropped 1B in value from last season, Mark? Says Matty OS. I have heard that. I don't know how accurate it is. Please do smash a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe if you're new, bottom right hand corner. We're on 489,950, so we're only 50 away from hitting 490. If you haven't subscribed, bottom right hand corner, click the subscribe button and then click your bell. Also, if you have subscribed, please share the video. There's a share button, so you can still help the growth. Hit the share button, share it out, because I can't wait to hit 500,000. Party time. But let me just play this as well, because this is important to us.
They don't know about this guy.
What the hell?
Show me something.
What was that? Is that where more players in?
I'm calling you out.
Things you do for the team, mate. United Stand FC coming soon. Blood Brothers, Arsenal Fan TV, Pratt in the Hat FC. We'll be playing all those. So a little bit of a teaser for you there. Early days United Stand FC, and I just want to thank everybody, because I know a lot of you were like thinking, what's that all about? But this is a personal thing for me. You know, I'm running that team with Flex and a few others. We're building that. We only started the trials back in April. We've played a few games. We're unbeaten, and you know, it's going great. And if it wasn't for you lot, we wouldn't have this opportunity to build it. So thank you, and obviously keep an eye out for it. If you've not watched the story so far, if you go to the homepage, there's a United Stand FC playlist. You can watch it from trials all through the games to where we are at the moment. So keep your eye out for that. Keep getting involved. involved, make sure you subscribe, smash a like. And we've had a super chat from G and Andrea Ocola, who says, what does it take for Ed Woodward and the Glazers to F off, get as a sports director and opening the doors for ownership who want to win? Couldn't have put it better myself. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll speak to you tomorrow morning. If you want to watch the video about Milinkovic-Savic, that went up on the channel this afternoon, so please do give it a watch. We'll be back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, and I'm sure we'll have something for you tomorrow. United flying out tomorrow. Will there be any developments? Are we now going into a quiet period for transfers? I can't believe that will be the case. I have to believe that things will get better, but I'll end the show the way I started it. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's got to sell Paul Pogba, because if he doesn't, he'll probably end up with the sack. You can't build a team around a player that doesn't want to be here, because they'll drown tools, they'll do you over, and you will lose out. You've got to let him go, Ollie. Thanks for watching.